Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Vishpad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottar Satar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagvatam ki, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Harinam Sankirtan Mahayagna ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadramai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 4, Chapter 13, text number 35. Iti vyavasita vipras. Iti vyavasita vipras. Tasya rajñā prajātaye. tasya rajñā prajataye purodasham niravapan Shipivistaya Vishnave Iti vyavasito vipras Tasya rajñā prajataye Purodasham niravapan Shipivistaya Vishnave Iti, thus, vyavasitaha, having decided, vipraha, the brahmanas, tasya, his, rajñaha, of the king, prajataye, for the purpose of getting a son, purodasham, the paraphernalia of sacrifice, niravapan, offered, Shipivistaya, the Lord who is situated in the sacrificial fire, Vishnave, to Lord Vishnu. The translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus, for the sake of a son for King Anga, they decided to offer oblations to Lord Vishnu, who is situated in the heart of all living entities. Purport. According to the sacrificial rituals, animals are sometimes sacrificed in the yajna arena. Such animals are sacrificed not to kill them, but to give them a new life. Such action was an experiment to observe whether the Vedic mantras were being properly pronounced. Sometimes small animals are killed in a medical laboratory to investigate therapeutic effects. In a medical clinic, the animals are not revived, but in the yajna arena, when animals are sacrificed, they were again given life by the potency of Vedic mantras. The word Shipivistaya appears in this verse. Shipi means the flames of sacrifice. In the sacrificial fire, if the oblations are offered into the flames, then Lord Vishnu is situated there in the form of the flames. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is known as Shipivishta. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Akshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale dadati swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat. Thus for the sake of a son for King Anga, they decided to offer oblations to Lord Vishnu, who is situated in the hearts of all living entities. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Deenataharinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. It's very nice to be back here at the shelter of the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra and Shri Shri Gauranitai and all the wonderful Vaishnavas here. Especially wish to offer my obeisances to His Grace Anandamaya Prabhu. Nice to be back here. So in today's verse, the pitiable condition of King Anga is being elaborated. King Anga didn't have a son, and hence somehow he became disqualified from performing karma kanda type of Vedic sacrifices. So much so that though he made very sincere efforts, the devatas and the other demigods, etc., seem to have boycotted his yajna. They just boycotted his yajna. They just didn't turn up, that's all. Quite an interesting situation. So they're offering oblations in the name of various devatas, and neither are they accepting nor are they present. So which means they really boycotted Maharaj Anga's sacrifice. This, at that time, in that yuga, seemed to be like a very unusual happening. So everybody was intrigued and puzzled. How can this happen? The devatas are neither here nor are they accepting the oblations. A very nice verse, it says, one of the previous verses says that obviously King Anga was very worried. He thought, what's going on? Such an elaborate sacrifice yajna I'm doing, and nobody is turning up. So it says that he took the permission of all the priests who had assembled there and inquires from them, what do you think is going wrong? Why is this happening? Why en masse everybody is boycotting? Where is it? What's the problem? Where are we going wrong? So he took their permission and placed their inquiry to them, saying, if you don't mind, if it is okay with you, can I ask you all why this is happening? So the priests are also genuine brahmanas, fearless, very bold. very truthful, and quite expert also. These are important qualities of a Brahminical class of men. Very fearless, very truthful, very bold, very expert, very well learned, and a well-wisher. Well-wisher. So they tell him that as far as we can say, you don't seem to have done any sinful activity in this lifetime. And they say something very bewildering actually. They tell Maharaj Anga that you don't seem to have committed any sinful activity even in your mind. That's like a very special certificate they're giving to Maharaj Anga. Imagine not doing any sinful activity even in your mind. He says that is the level of purity with which you have lived. You're a great soul, no doubt. That's the level of purity Bhagavatam speaks about. You're a great soul, you're a pure soul, no doubt about that. But definitely you seem to have acquired some sinful reactions from your previous life. As a result of which you don't have a son now. So it is considered that if somebody doesn't have a son in this present life, it is a clear indication that he must have done sinful activities in his previous life or lives. So he doesn't have a son. Because in the Vedic culture, the Karma Kanda culture, having a son is considered very important, all important. Putra, Suputra. Because it is believed that according to the Karma Kanda system, if you wish to get elevated or for that matter liberated, you need to have a son who will offer oblations in your name after you are dead and gone. So that Pindadan has to be done, and that only a son can do. So getting a son was considered as an extremely important, you could say not just a social necessity, but a religious necessity. I wouldn't like to say spiritual, but a religious necessity to have a son who will offer Pindadan, and then the Pitrus get promoted because of the Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Because then you get elevated and finally you get, what is known as moksha, liberation. Nothing spiritual about it, moksha or liberation. It is a very elevated material position. Definitely not an indication of one's spiritual state, but it is an indication of one's piety, pious credits and piety. So, the demigods are calculative. They calculate all these things. How can we go to this person's sacrifice? He doesn't have a son. We don't have to go. We can skip. We can do something else at that time. We don't have to go. He doesn't have a son, so hard luck for him. It's just sometimes appears a little odd and cruel. He didn't have a son, so all the devatas boycott him. But that's the way it is in Karma Kanda system. Karma Kanda system has a different kind of a algorithm and calculations. You don't have a son. You have not done enough sacrifices, etc. Karma Kanda is a whole different world by itself. Because we are always calculating in terms of pious credits. Have you done 100 Ashwamedha Yagyas? Then you are ready to become Indra. Then the Indra, the real person who's sitting in Indra's throne at that point of time, becomes very scared and envious. And he will come down to disturb. And in case the mantras are not pronounced properly, then there's a whole cycle of adverse reactions that happen. And if one of the brahmanas who comes there to perform the yagya is for some reason offended or upset, then that triggers another cycle of reactions. Like we know the story of Nriga. he gave that cow, and he gave millions of cows. One of them drifted away from one of the Brahmanas' herd into some other Brahmanas' herd. And then so the person to whom it was originally donated spots his cow with some other Brahmana and says, "That is mine." And the second Brahmana into whose herd the cow has drifted will say, "I don't care, it's with me now, it will stay with me." Now, they both have a quarrel. They say, the first Brahmana says, "No, it is with me." The second one says, "I can't give it to you, it's come into my herd now." And in the process, the poor King Driga gets cursed. He tries his best to patch it up and says, "You please release that cow, I'll give you 1,000 cows more, beautifully decked with gold, etc." But the second Brahmana will say, no, this is my cow. And then he'll say, "I may get cursed." He will say, "I don't care, that's your problem." Like that. So Karma Kanda is it's a whole different... but it's a fact that there are many enthusiasts who like to be in that space, perform yajnas, make calculations, etc., etc. But it is fraught with risk and danger, like this, like what's happening now. He doesn't have a son. He's immediately branded as a person without sufficient pious credit, so we can boycott him. But then luckily it seems like the priests who were present there came up with a solution to Maharaj Anga's problem. Luckily, it seems that they seem to have come out with a solution, and they said that under the circumstances, it is clear that you have done sinful activities in one of your previous lives, which you are carrying forward now, which is why you don't have a son, and the Devatas are boycotting you. And the only solution to you is that you invoke the name of Lord Vishnu and perform a sacrifice. Invoke the name of Lord Vishnu and perform a sacrifice. So the good thing here is that in the whole story, the good thing is at least that they recommended that you perform a sacrifice in the name of Vishnu. Perform a sacrifice in the name of Vishnu. And then they say that if Vishnu comes to accept his share of the oblations, definitely all the Devatas have to come along. You don't have to call them separately. You don't have to placate them or satisfy them separately. They will be forced to come along. And that will solve your problem. So this appeals to the mind of Maharaj Anga. He says, sounds like a good idea. So why not I offer a sacrifice and invite Lord Vishnu, make Lord Vishnu the beneficiary of this sacrifice. So somehow or other, even though it began as a pure karma kanda exercise, now turns into something spiritual because Vishnu is invoked. Vishnu is invited because they know that seems to be the only solution. Invite Vishnu, he will bring the Devatas. You don't have to separately invite the Devatas. And there you are, your problem is solved. So they offer this sacrifice to Lord Vishnu. The same set of priests under the guidance of, at the request of Maharaj Anga. Now here in the purport, Prabhupada says something very nice. He says that sacrifice sometimes involves killing of animals. But then Prabhupada clarifies that there is killing of animals, but that does not mean that these animals are killed because someone is hungry to eat them or something like that. It is a part of a Vedic ritual, but Prabhupada says that ordinarily when an animal is killed, it is killed. That's over. But in a Vedic arena, sacrificial arena, when an animal is killed, the soul has to be reborn, has to be given another body. So it's more like It's more like you could say a demonstration of the power of the mantras, or shall we say purity of the Brahmana, the power of the Brahmana. To us it appears like a very dangerous game. Imagine killing, what if that Brahmana doesn't get it right? So, but you see Karma Kanda is like that. So, and those days the Brahmanas had that kind of a potency and courage and expertise. So they could do this. They would kill, and the Atma is made to enter into another body, and that body gets revived and so on. All kinds of mystical things happen in these kind of Karmakanda processes as well. So, Prabhupada says this is the potency of the mantra also, not just the purity of the Brahmana, the potency of the mantra also. But of course, when we say purity of the Brahmana is involved, we understand that the word purity from a very Karmakanda perspective, not from a Vaishnava perspective, the Karmakanda perspective, which is quite different from how the Vaishnavas look at things. So nevertheless, there's a sacrifice, but Prabhupada, the interesting thing he says, this is the potency of the mantra. So Vedic processes are very powerful when properly followed and carefully executed under the guidance of a guru. Vedic processes are very, very powerful. The reason being that of course in the Bhagavad Gita also we see Krishna says that after I created this world and filled it up, populated it, I gave yajna, I gave the process of yajna. I institutionalize this process of yajna, by which if you do yajna, then everybody is happy. The living entities are happy. By the way, the living entities are happy because the devatas and the Lord is happy. It's not the other way around. Because the devatas are satisfied, Lord Vishnu is satisfied, the living entities are also happy. So he says, I gave this process of yajna. Now, yajna involves chanting of mantras, and so here Prabhupada is confirming that these mantras are powerful. But you see, most of these mantras, many of them actually, if they come in the Karmakanda Parampara, they have to be chanted carefully, without any error, etc., by pure Brahmanas, etc. And then also it is mentioned that under the guidance of a guru. Independent of the guru, there is no such thing as mantras working. I mean, you just can't pick up the Vedic scriptures, take a mantra and start chanting. And no, it doesn't work like that. The potency of the mantra stays locked unless it is given to you in a proper parampara. It stays locked, it doesn't manifest. Even for that matter, it is said that a basic mantra like the Gayatri mantra also, I mean, sometimes these days we hear that they just keep playing it. They put in that plug-in thing and then it keeps on playing. But it's pretty childish to attempt to do that. Because anybody who knows the Vedic scriptures knows that that mantra won't work unless it is received in a proper parampara. And sometimes you see that the chanting is done by women. They just go on playing it. And also this mantra is not meant to be chanted aloud. So many things like that. So the point is that Prabhupada is saying that these mantras are very powerful. He uses the word, this is the potency of the mantras. I mean, all Vedic processes have potency when properly followed and done. But in Kali Yuga, it is discouraged. That because there are no qualified Brahmanas, and then I would think that they are discouraged not just because there are no qualified Brahmanas. The other reason, the more fundamental reason, the more philosophical reason why these processes are discouraged is because they encourage a fruitive mentality and an enjoying tendency. Philosophically, that's where we have a problem with these Karmakanda processes. Our problem with Karmakanda process is not that it is not bona fide or Vedic. It is definitely Vedic. But the problem really is that it encourages a fruitive mentality. And it encourages like I said, enjoying whatever. So here this whole thing is being done now to satisfy Vishnu, because Maharaj Anga wanted a son. Maharaj wanted a son, so he worships Vishnu and he is making an elaborate arrangements so that he has a son. And why does he want a son? He wants a son because if he has a son, then he is not outcast by the Devatas. And then if he has a son, he is not outcast by the Devatas, then he can indulge fully in karma kanda process of yagyas. His problem was that when he is doing a karma kanda yagya, nobody is coming to receive oblations. And the problem is diagnosed as that he had sinful credit or whatever, sinful reactions to his credit, and then it has to be neutralized and he has to call Vishnu, he has to get a son. And if he has a son, the Devatas will come when he does yagya. So the whole thing is centered around some kind of a desire to, the Vaishnavas, we use this word, some kind of a tendency to enjoy separately from Krishna, independent of Krishna. That's where the problem is. So we shy away from karma kanda process because inherent in these processes is the contamination of enjoying tendency. Because the processes, the karma kanda process, there's a phala, there's a fruit. And one performs the karma kanda for the fruit only, not because of any other reason, for the fruit. And by the way, you want to enjoy the fruit or whatever. But quite contrary to this is the mood and attitude of a Vaishnava. Quite contrary, completely contrary to this is the mood and attitude of a Vaishnava. So what is the mood and attitude of a Vaishnava? Completely in contrast to this, a Vaishnava actually shuns. He gives up. He doesn't like. In this chapter itself, it is there in the earlier shlokas. I forget the name. Must be the name of the son of Dhruva Maharaj was Utkala or something. Utkala or something. Utkala. It says here so clearly that Utkala was also an amazingly determined devotee, that after the time of Dhruva Maharaj, when it became his turn to take the kingdom and rule the kingdom, he refused, he didn't want it. He says, no, I don't want it, it's too dangerous. And he makes a very elaborate plan how to escape from becoming a king. In the karma kanda process, we hear exactly the opposite, how they make elaborate plans to become king, to become Indra, to become this, to become that, or whatever. But here we see that he is making an elaborate plan how to escape from being the king. And he goes to great lengths to prove that he is not qualified to be the king. He acts like a madman, he acts like a deaf, dumb, blind, unintelligent person. So much so that they bypass him and then give the kingdom to his brother or something. Imagine this ready-made kingdom. Dhruva Maharaj is leaving behind, he just has to come and occupy the throne. And he's saying, no, I don't want it. I would rather go to the forest, meditate on Lord Vishnu uninterruptedly. And I find that much more glorious than trying to become a king. But here we see in the karma kanda process that it is somehow encouraged that if someone becomes a king, then he wants to be the most powerful king. If he becomes a powerful king, he wants to be the king forever. And then he wants to conquer the heavenly planets. And the karma kanda thing is like that. It is, you can't draw a line or put a full stop. It's always a comma there. After that, okay, now let me do something more. Let me capture this, let me capture that. So basically, this pure living entity, which is meant to be offering unconditional service to the Lord, is turned into a lusty, greedy, what shall I say? Whatever, a lusty and very greedy version. And moving so far away from the path of pure devotion, very, very far away. from the path of pure devotion. That is the problem. Yes, these mantras are powerful, and then you start playing that game of karma kanda, because you'll start noticing that karma kanda actually produces results. It says here in this that it produces results. Whatever you're asking for, it will produce when you do it properly. So you like that whole system, you will like it, then you will start calculating that. And then there's no limit. Because we know that the more we try to satisfy our material hankerings and wants, the more they will grow, but they will not subside. They will not subside, but they will grow. So there is this whole problem. So I guess in the same chapter 13, right at the beginning, we have a different kind of example. Dhruva Maharaj's brother. He says, I don't want this. Don't get me involved in this. And he goes to such a great extent, like I told you, he acts like a mad, dull, deaf, dumb, blind individual, so that they bypass him and give the kingdom to his brother. But here we see that Maharaj Anga is so worried. But I mean, typically, a devotee of the Lord will look at it as some form of mercy of the Lord, that I don't have a son. Or whatever, they have a very different point of view. Their lamentation will never be because they don't have a son or a daughter or something. Their lamentation is always centered around their service to their Guru and Krishna. That I have wasted my life, I have not utilized it properly. I have not engaged myself with sufficient purity or intensity. I have been distracted for so many lifetimes from pure devotional service. How I wish I had got another chance so that I can reverse things and serve the deities much more under the direction of my Guru. Like that. These are the calculations that a devotee of the Lord makes. And at least in Bhagavatam we have not come across, I mean, you could say Chitraketu was there, he wanted to have a son, etc. But they considered as some kind of a duty because he has a king, not because he wanted to use the son to perform karma kanda process of yagyas. That's a little different kind of a example. But nevertheless, a devotee's contemplation is always in terms of what my Guru ordered, what my Guru wanted me to do, and so on. So much so that, sometimes it is very remarkable to what extent they go in terms of their devotion to the mission of their Guru. Like it is said that Shabari, after her meeting with Lord Rama, I mean, she gives her fruits to Lord Rama, feeds him, satisfies him, pleases him, Shabari. And it is said that at the end of the meeting she has with Lord Rama, and where she feeds Lord Rama and pleases him immensely, and when she understands that Lord Rama is lamenting because of separation from Sita, Shabari advises him, says, go and meet Sugriva, he will help you, and gives him a location where to find Sugriva. After that, Shabari takes permission from Lord Rama. She says, I have been waiting for you to come, to have your darshan, to serve you, to show my respect, devotion, etc. to you. But now having accomplished that, I want to leave. So you might think, what is the hurry? Where does she want to go? Please give me the permission, I want to leave. Then she will ask Lord Rama, she says, please bless me so that I can go to wherever my gurus have gone, so I can continue my service to them. That's an amazing thing that she asks. I want to go to where my gurus have gone so that I can continue to render my service to them. And she considers that the disciples of Matanga Rishi, who was there in the neighborhood, disciples of Matanga Rishi as her gurus because they are the ones who had instructed her. Stay, Rama will come. Serve him. Serve him and be blessed by him. So, the urgency of wanting to go back to where the Guru is and continue their service, that is the hallmark of a Vaishnava, of a devotee. As against making calculations that, okay, now this yajna, that yajna, followed by that, followed by this, and now how do I get better at that, and whatever. These are karma kanda calculations. Honestly speaking, the Vaishnavas don't have, neither do they have the inclination, nor do they want to give the time, nor do they have the interest in any such thing. They are thinking about how to serve their Guru, Guru's mission, and Krishna. So, and they look at everything that happens in their life as having happened by the divine arrangement of the Lord. So there's, by the arrangement of the Lord, by the mercy of the Lord, and whatever is happening is for their good, eventually for their good. So there's no such thing as a Vaishnava looking at his material condition and either lamenting or appreciating it or whatever it is. There's no such calculation. He's only thinking in terms of time, and time is meant to serve. Time is meant to increase one's purity and increase one's service and engage more and more. So there's a whole big difference in the way they approach the opportunity called life, or life in a human form. Whereas the karma kandis will always look at how to advance materially into maybe the heavenly planets, or increasing their longevity or their power or whatever, increasing the boundaries of their kingdom. Whereas a Vaishnava will only look in terms of increasing the purity of service, increasing the quantum of seva, etc. To Guru and Krishna. So, is there a difference? Yes, definitely there's a huge difference between the two. And obviously the Srimad Bhagvatam is recommending that we should develop the mood and mentality of a Vaishnava. And we'll see how this story unfolds and why this incident is being captured, why we are spending time discussing about Maharaj Anga in the future shlokas. But nevertheless, in the shlokas that have come up in this chapter 13 up to this point of time, we can see that there's the genealogical table is there of Dhruva Maharaj's descendants. And then there is special mention, like I mentioned, about Dhruva Maharaj's younger brother, son. Special mention about him. So Bhagavatam, of course we could say that Vidura is asking, can I know about the genealogical table of Dhruva, etc. So in response to that, Maitreya is elaborating. But somewhere Prabhupada says, some of our acharyas say, even the mention of these names of those who are present in the Bhagavatam has its own kind of a spiritual benefit. Their names are not there accidentally. They are also great devotees. So even mentioning the names of those who are descendants of Dhruva has its own spiritual benefit. So now coming back to the point about potency of the mantras, Lord Chaitanya says that this is the mantra for this age, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Right up to the point where they start chanting, we see that they are one type of an individual, but from the moment they start chanting the Hare Krishna mantra in a disciplined, regular way, regulated way, you see that he becomes a different person altogether. From the time they start chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, they're completely different. unrecognizably different. Very, very different they become. So you could say, Lord Chaitanya explains that this is the potency of this mantra. Haridas Thakur explains that even if one chants the mantra accidentally, unintentionally, etc., etc., this mantra works. So this Hare Krishna mantra is a gift for the people of this Kali Yuga. It is the most powerful mantra for this age. And especially when received in a parampara from a bona fide acharya, guru, and when we practice bhakti under the guidance and supervision and whatever of a acharya, so the mantra tends to produce more results. And among the first thing that happens is what we are discussing in today's shloka. Among the first thing that happens is we start losing interest in karma kanda approach to life. I mean, karma kanda approach to life means how to improve my material situation. Among the first thing that happens is that we start looking at life as an opportunity to become closer to Guru Krishna, offer more service. We start looking at life as an opportunity to purify one's existence. And when we say purify, purify it from karma kanda, contamination. Karma kanda is considered as a contamination, though it's a very pious, it comes under the bracket of piety, punya, etc. But from a Vaishnava wise perspective, that's a contamination in the heart, the tendency to enjoy, etc. So among the first thing that happens when you receive the mantra from a bona fide parampara like that of Lord Chaitanya is you become purified. Such tendencies become nullified over a period of time. So that's the power of this potency of this mantra. That makes you a very different person. Makes you interested in unconditional service to the Lord and Vaishnavas. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur one time says that, I'm chanting with the hope that someday, some lifetime, I will develop a taste for Vaishnava Ashraya, shelter of the Vaishnavas, taste for living under the shelter of Vaishnavas. And serving them sincerely. So I am living in that hope, and it is with that hope that I am chanting, that someday I will be blessed with that kind of an association and that type of an interest and inclination, like that. So if you could say the obsession of a living entity after he becomes a devotee is how to expand his service to the Guru Parampara. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. That you explain about the Karma Kanda process, that and you differentiate between the Karma Kanda and the spirituality.
It's echoing.
You make the difference between the Karma Kanda and spirituality.
Yes, Karma Kanda and spirituality difference.
Starting, you told one point that Angashan, we are describing about Angashan, that Angashan is disqualified. And you told that the sun represent that you have done some good karma in your past life. So that is my question, that why, like I did not understand why daughter born into the family is feeling very bad. Even in the current culture also, people not accepting the daughter. They thinking the daughter born, matlab I have done so much bad thing in my life. Even I see the big devotees, they accept the daughter as a Vishnu Prasad, Lord Prasad. But why in the society we told that daughter does not allowed for Pindadan and daughter does not allowed anything. Only son is there, then only you are qualified, otherwise you are not qualified. Because everyone is soul, either boy or girl. So if you can little explain, I clarify this.
Women would be very happy to hear this question. You're speaking about women empowerment. I don't see that when women are born in the Vedic system, the parents are condemned. No, I really don't see that. But it is considered a much bigger responsibility and challenge to bring up the women and see that they're properly settled. Actually, once you get a once you get a daughter and she's, after a particular age, she's not married, then it is considered very risky, dangerous, and the parents get into a tremendous anxiety. And we see that kind of references are there in the Bhagavatam also, in a couple of other places, that you have an unmarried daughter at home and she's grown up, unmarried daughter. So it's considered a big anxiety, and it becomes a preoccupation for the parents to get her properly married and settled. But yes, in the karma kanda process, yes, the man, the putra, the son is given more importance. Definitely, we cannot deny that. It is the son who is eligible to perform certain types of yagyas, homa, whatever, pindadan, etc. That is in the karma kanda process, and hence that is why they struggled and they perform yagyas, whatever, to have a son. That is purely karma kanda calculation. But from a Vaishnava perspective, like you rightly said, devotees don't look at it like that. Devotees, whether they have a son or a daughter, their only interest is to see that the person, the living entity, becomes a pure devotee, is engaged in offering menial, simple, whatever, service to Guru Parampara. So that is their only interest. And whichever house the daughter goes, they hope that she will bring auspiciousness, the culture of bhakti, culture of, the varnashrama system, grahastha, responsibility, etc. into that household. That is the only, shall we say, plan of a grahastha. Prabhupada also says women, they should, he didn't bar them from performing devotional service, taking responsibility, doing services of various kind. But Prabhupada says that their primary duty is to see that, protect the unit called Grahastha Ashram, husband, wife, children, taking care of parents and things like that. So wife's primary responsibility, in addition to that, if she is capable of doing much more, they are always welcome. But we can't subtract from that primary responsibility of having to protect the family, protect the husband, be very chaste, loyal, etc. Now, in addition to that, if they can do more, they're okay. In fact, one time, His Holiness Japataka Maharaj mentioned that Prabhupada had a group of Western women went up to Prabhupada and asked Prabhupada, what are your instructions to us? Because they were in India. I think this happened in Mayapur, Sridham Mayapur. Japataka Maharaj mentioned that he was present when this interaction was happening between Prabhupada and all his women disciples. So they asked him, where do we draw a line? How do we balance? In the West we do so many things, but in India we see that women are not allowed to do many things, etc. And Prabhupada said, it's not so much a West versus India kind of a scenario. Prabhupada said, at home you should all be like mice. Mice means little rats. Very humble, gentle, cooperative, surrendered, submissive to the husband, etc. But once you step out, Prabhupada told them you can become the tigress. I mean, go ahead and preach. Don't worry, no limit. Go ahead and preach. Do whatever you can to spread the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Whatever you can. As boldly, as confidently as possible. You can. So we see in ISKCON, women in many temples have responsibilities for preaching. They take care of different departments. But of course, they don't become presidents and things like that. That's somehow reserved for the men, luckily. I don't know. I mean to say, compared to what happens in the outside world, ISKCON is blessed and lucky in the sense that we understand where to draw the line in terms of empowerment of women. So, Prabhupada allowed women to take responsibility and preach. And we are seeing it in many temples, many communities, Bhakti Shastri teachers. There are so many women who teach. Many departments in various temples, women take care. Chopati or Bombay or Bangalore, our temple also, many women take care of different departments. But the fact is, Karmakanda way of analyzing, yes, they look at women as a liability, as a responsibility, as a problem, whatever, as a setback, as against having a son. Because people have this tendency that whatever they earn, they want to give it to their son and not so much to their daughter. Daughter, they give something as dowry and they want to be done away with it. But how can devotees look at things like that? Like you rightly said, you have a daughter, that's what your karma entails. And we try and make them also into nice devotees. We don't get so much into karma kanda calculations. Thank you. Good question. Any other question? Parantara Srimad Bhagvatam ki, Jagat Gurupati Pavan Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Prema.